Today we're going to cover the most notable features from the recent Figma updates, and those features are variables along with advanced prototyping. You're able to follow along by grabbing a copy of this design file in the description, where we're going to integrate these new features across 5 different simple projects I've created. So let's get started. If you enjoyed this video, check out DesignCourse.com, where you can learn UI, UX, CSS, and more with my custom interactive platform that makes learning fun and easy. All right, so this is the document here. Nothing dynamic is happening here. This is just the layout and the design that's already created for us. So again, in the YouTube description, make sure you grab this and you basically clone this file so that you have access to each of these so that we can start playing with them. So I'm gonna put this in a new document I have already open here and just paste this very first frame from here into this new document. Now, if we want to get this to work, and by the way, if you select the frame, hit Shift Spacebar, we can go ahead and wait for a second. All right, and we can see nothing clearly happens. There's no interactions at all. So let's first go ahead and we're going to take this and make it a component, because we're going to add a hover state and then we're going to work in the new features for this. So we're going to go ahead and take this, make it a component, click it again for a component variant. I'm going to hit the F key for frame, and we're just going to drag this up over here. And again, I might make that a little bit bigger. There we go. Okay, so our hover state is going to be, actually, we're not going to have a hover state. We'll just have a click state right here. So when this goes to here, this will be the click state. And when it is pressed, we're going to double click into here and gain access to change this selection color. We're going to grab this blue right here, and we'll just have something like that. Okay, very simple. Now, we're also going to go back to assets. We can grab our little element there. There we go. Now we have an instance of it. Okay, so now what we want to do in order to get this to work is we need to tie this number variable here to an actual variable that we haven't yet created. So the way you do this is you deselect everything, and then over here in the property inspector, you'll see local variables. So when we click this, here we can see this beta. And by the way, if you're using the desktop version, make sure you're using the Figma beta desktop version. Otherwise, these beta features won't show up. And so we can see we have what are called collections over here. We can create multiple collections, and the main reason for creating these collections are so that you could take your variables and you organize them in a suitable manner. So if like you have variables for color schemes and stuff, you can have a color schemes collection. If you have Boolean values, you can have a Boolean value collection. All that, it's just a way to organize your variables. For us, we're just gonna leave this at collection 1, and we're gonna just click create variable. And you can see clearly we have 4 different options. So for us, we want a number variable, all right? And so the number, we can change the name of this, and right now it just says number. We're gonna change this to like count. All right, so we have an initial value of 0, which is what we want for this demonstration. So what we do is we control left click and then control shift left clicks as well to select both of those instances. And then we come over here, and right here, this little apply variable, we're gonna click that right there. Now it is tied to this value. So if I double click over here and I change this to something like 12, it updates here as well, which is really awesome. So we're gonna leave this back at 0. All right, so now in order for us to get this to actually increment this variable based on a click over here, we're gonna switch to prototype mode over here. Let's close that out. We're gonna double click on our first variant, and we're gonna come down here and drag it there. And then right here, we'll leave all this stuff the same on click. That's all good. We're gonna click plus, and you're gonna need to move this to a team in order to gain access to this feature. So I already have a team set up here, and so I'm gonna click move, and we'll just have to do that again. So now we could choose set variable. Now for set variable, it'll be like count, all right? And then what we're gonna say is we're gonna add +1. That's it, just hit enter after that, and we're ready to rock. So now if I shift spacebar, click it, oh, it doesn't keep working. Why is that? Okay, so essentially, we need to apply this when this has been clicked, the same concept. So essentially, we can come over here, click to add an interaction. On click, you see we will set variable, light count, addition +1. Come back here, shift, and there we go. Very, very, very simple. Okay, awesome, awesome stuff. So that's like one of the most simple examples as far as creating the variables and incrementing with addition. You could use subtraction, multiplication, division, all that good stuff. We'll get some more experience in the next demo right here. So this is a little bit more complex. So I'm gonna come over here, we're gonna put this stuff right over here, and I'm gonna paste this in right there. Okay, so for this we have a purchase a license section where it says team seats, where we have this little area right here where you can click plus and minus in order to increment or what it would be, decrement this value right here. And then also we wanna add $39. This, by the way, should be 39, not just 30, but it doesn't matter. We're gonna change that to a variable anyhow. But each time we add one, it's gonna add 39 to this value right here. So let's get that set up as well. So first we're gonna need a couple different variables. So switch to design, go to local variables, and we're going to create a new one. And this time it's going to be the seat count, all right? So we'll call this seat count. And right now, by default, we'll make it 1. All right, and so we'll tie this value right here over to seat count. There we go, and it stays at 1, of course. All right, now we're also gonna need another variable for the cost. So let's come back over here, create variable, number, and we'll just say cost. Now by default, we'll leave it at 39. All righty. And then we're gonna take this value. Now notice how I set this up when I was designing this beforehand. This right here is an auto layout where we have just this right here, the number sign, and then the actual element right here, which will be the variable called cost. All right, so now it's assigned to cost. And the reason I decided to mention that is because this has the number sign and it won't have the number sign up here. So just so that you understand that. Okay, now what we need to do is, now that we have seat count and cost defined, we have to go ahead. I'm gonna take just this part, I'm gonna copy that, or actually rather, I'm just gonna turn that into a component. I'm gonna click that button twice up there. So now we have a variant, and I'm gonna hit frame up here and just grab the same color background and then just drag this up and over. There we go. And now we can start working on this and getting the interactions correct. So essentially what we're going to do here is when we hit +1, we want to increment this value right here, which is the seat count. All right, so what we could do is we can just simply say on click, let's go to prototype, we're gonna add an interaction. Let's close this out. All right, and our interaction is going to be a set variable, and that is going to be seat count. Oops, not light count, I'm sorry. We're going to go seat count +1. Very simple. All right. And then over here, we're going to do the opposite, and where we're going to subtract it. Very simple. Come over here, we're going to set variable, seat count, subtraction, 1. All right, -1, or -1 rather. Now we don't even need this. Actually, if we wanted to do like a hover state, you could do this as well. But for really this purpose, we don't even need the variant, so that's fine. Let's go back to assets. We're going to drag this in. And we want to make sure we get this inside of here in the correct area. So we don't want that. We want this switched like that. And we'll bring this out. Let's get this over here. Get this fixed up. There we go. So now we're back to where we started with our instance right here. All right, so let's take this, shift spacebar while selecting it, and then there we go. We have our plus, and then we have our negative, and it increments and de-increments exactly as we'd expect it to. Okay, so that's good right there. However, we also need to add to this total as well. Okay, so I think before though we get to that point, we should probably work in some conditional logic, which we haven't yet covered, because we don't want this situation occurring where we're going to negative values. That doesn't make sense. All right, so in order to avoid that, we don't have to screw around with the plus, because the plus will never get us, be obviously underneath 1 right here. So the negative though, we want it to stop at 1 or 0, depending on how you look at it. So we're going to click on this. I'm going to just zoom up here. We're going to add a conditional. So it's an if-else statement, and when we click on write condition, we can select the count is not equal to 0. All right. So if it's not equal to 0, then you can do this stuff here. Now, I swear I was able to previously take this and just kind of like move it. Oh, there it is. Yeah, we could just move that in there. We could set the seat count right there. So you have to collapse that first. I was really struggling with that. I was like, how do we drag these in there? Well, I just figured it out on the spot. And so now we can leave else empty. So let's go ahead and see how this new interaction works. So we'll go ahead and hit plus. All right, now minus, and that's it. You can't go anymore. So that's how you can work in conditional logic. Now, we also want, sorry about that, we also want this 39 to increment and also respond to based on that plus and minus action. So with that said, for plus, let's go ahead and take this plus, and we're going to do this interaction. We're going to go ahead and set variable. This is going to be cost. All right, so the cost is going to be cost plus 39. All righty. And then we'll do the same thing over here. Oopsie. There we go. And then we'll say add an action, set variable, cost is going to be cost minus 39. We can go ahead and collapse this and drag this in there as well. Awesome. So now we're going to go ahead and play this. We can see cost rises all the way down here. There we go. And it just stops. Very good stuff. Okay, let's go on to our third example. And this is going to be, we're going to, for the first time, actually introduce a color variable. All right, so let's go ahead and copy this. And we have a light dark toggle. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get a new frame here. We'll make it the same color as our background. We're going to take this and we're going to create a component out of it and a variant. We're going to move this into this section here. And let's get this working. So the first thing before we start working with prototyping is to define a variable for this background color. So to do that, we go to design, local variables, and then we'll create a new collection this time. Create collection, we'll call this colors, and then create variable. It's going to be a color. And the name we'll call background. And then our current color will be this blue. All right, that works. And then we'll go ahead and close that out. We're going to tie this background color. And if I click it, we go to libraries and then we click background. So now if we go back to local variables and I start playing with this, you'll see how it affects that color. So you could do this obviously in any value that accepts color, essentially, like type or anything else. So let's also real quickly get our light dark mode toggle thing situated here. There we go. And now what we want to do is create the other state right here. So I'm just going to move this. What I could do, the way I set this up is I'm going to change the alignment of the auto layout to get it over there. And then also the element that's not toggled on will be like at 50% pass-through value opacity. So over here, let's change to 50% as well. All right. So then we take this whole element here, and then we are going to switch to prototype. We're going to drag a connection. So we can change this to smart animate as well. And then we can click add, set variable. And let's come down here. This variable is going to be the background color, and we want to set it to, let's just do white, or maybe like really light blue. All right. Now we're also going to have to, once we click it, go back, we're going to drag a connection there, and then we're going to add the same thing. So background would become this color right there once again. Okay, let's see if it works. Oh, well, we certainly don't want that. That says dark. Why did I make it white? Because I'm simple. Okay, let's fix that. Change this to like a dark. There we go. Almost black color. Let's try that again. Let's select the right frame though. There we go. Zoom up, click it. There we go. Very, very, very cool. Very simple example with color. Let's try number 4, and this one gets a little bit more involved. This one will deal in the use of Boolean values. So let's work on that. Let's copy this. Okay. So this right here, there's a little bit, a lot of stuff is going to be happening here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this element right here. If you double click in, it's just selecting these 2 elements, and we're going to make that the actual frame, or sorry, component. And so in doing that, it's going to screw up the layout. Don't worry about that. I'm going to hit frame just to get up here, and then we're going to drag that up here. Okay. Now for the initial state, we're going to have 3 different states, by the way. The initial state is this right here. The opacity or the pass-through is going to be 0. So that's our default state. This will be a hover state. And so this is still going to be 0 for this check mark. So I'm going to make that pass-through 0. But I'm also going to take the container outside of it and just give it a stroke for hover. And the stroke value would be something like that blue we've been using. That's fine. And then we're going to go ahead and duplicate this. And then this is going to be the filled in value. So this stroke is actually now going from black to white, and we're going to give this a fill of that same color right there. Now we also have to select this and bring that back to 100%. So those are our 3 states for this element. And what we want to do is we want to toggle on and off the visibility of this right here. And we're going to also do it with another text layer as well that's not pictured. So we could do this with the use of a Boolean value. So to do that, let's create a new collection up here. So we'll do create collection, create variable, Boolean, which is true or false. And we'll just call this show avatar, I guess. So we're going to make this true by default, show avatar. Now, Boolean values currently, at the time of the recording this, are only able to control the visibility of a layer. Like it could show it on and off, like the little eye icon. And so what we'll do is we'll select our avatar, and with it selected, right over here where it says layer pass through and this little eye icon, we right click it. It's not the most obvious thing ever. It actually took me a while to figure out how to do this. We right click it and we just choose show avatar. All right, so right now it's true, but if we toggle it off up here, it's false, or it gets hidden. So we're gonna leave that at true. And now we want to control the value of the Boolean value up here, the variable rather, with these elements right here. So initially, when we hover over this state, we're not trying to change anything because nobody clicked anything. All right, so this is the hover state, and this is when somebody clicks it. So this is where we want to add in the prototype an interaction. So the interaction is going to go straight here, but also outside of just changing the variant, it's also going to set a variable. And that variable is show avatar. And we're going to say it's going to be equal to true right there. So let's go ahead, and that's exactly what it should look like. So show avatar and then true. And that should be pretty good right there. And at this point, let's go ahead and get that back in with our assets. So we're going to take show avatar. We need to get this inside of the actual, let's see here. We have this. Let's see if we can just drag this in. There we go. So now it's exactly where it needs to be. All right, so let's zoom up here so you can see. All right, so the hover state isn't working. I think that's because I didn't apply that correctly. So yeah, I didn't even set it up. Sorry about that. Let's drag this down. This will simply be changed to while hovering. Okay. So again, let's go back here. There it goes. So we have our little hover. Click on it. And I know what happened. It's because it was already true, so nothing changed. So really, we should go back to our design into local variables and just make this false. And now you see everything gets hidden, which is not what we want. So we just need to break this connection right here. There we go. And we need to reapply it to this element only. So we come over here under pass through. Sorry about that. There we go. So now if we toggle it on and off, that'll stay. Okay. So let's try this again. Click it. Now by default, we want this hidden there because it's not checked. Okay, so now one last time, show it. And then now we have to finally take this connection right here and make sure we're in prototype mode. And we're going to drag a connection all the way back to the very beginning and then set the variable of the show avatar to false. There we go. That's what you want. All right, so let's try this again. Show avatar. Oh no, and it's not working. And I discovered the issue here was if I zoom up, these were set at Smart Animate. I changed them to instant right here and this one as well to instant. And so now if we go back here and we bring this up, now it works as expected. Awesome. So let's go ahead and we're going to do one more final example. And this one right here doesn't really have much to do with interactive prototyping, more so with what are called modes. All right, so this is very powerful and I'm going to show you exactly how this works. So we're going to paste this in from the examples and we want to create a different color scheme for this. And we could do more than one or two, we can do multiple. And the way we do that is through our variables. So we're going to come back to our variables and we're going to go back to our colors right here. And maybe we should do a new collection for this just because we're dealing with the other project. So create collection. We're going to give this a name of new colors, I guess. Create the variable. It's going to be color. And right now we've only been dealing with a name and value, but we can actually add other columns to each one of these colors, and those are called modes. So here's how this works. Let's say we have a background color. So we'll call this background. And the current background color is right here. Now if we add plus, we'll see it changes to mode 1 and we have mode 2. So this is going to be the dark mode. This is going to be the light mode. So as you can see, a single variable can now be bound to 2 different modes, or even 3 if you add another one. All right, so we're going to go ahead and delete that mode. We only need 2 of them. And for a light mode, okay, well, what color do we want the background to be? Well, to do this, we can go ahead and select the frame for the background. Come over here. We assigned it under libraries. This is going to be background right there. And so now, if I'm trying to deal with a light mode, I can come over here and then like change it to wherever I think it will be. Now, why is it not changing right here, even though I'm changing the light mode right there? So if we deselect everything, we'll see under here it says page, and you'll see new color, and default it's on dark, but we were changing the light value. If we change this to light, now it's going to show us this color right here. All right, so that's how you could switch between modes. And unfortunately, at the time of recording this, you can't switch modes in a prototype manner. So like if I had a little toggle button and I wanted to be able to allow a user to click the toggle button and it'll switch the mode from dark to light and vice versa. Right now, at the time of recording this, you can't do that. But this is the preferred way to create color schemes in your design. You just have to switch them manually over here in order to show them to, you know, stakeholders or whoever, your client or whatever. So this is our light mode. And we're also have to create a few more for like the type, the watermark, the panel, and things like that. So let's create another one. We'll create variable. It's going to be color. And for this one, this will be, we'll call this main type. So let's change this, main type. And for the dark mode, like if we switch this back to dark, the main type is white, or it's almost white. It's D9, D9, D9. So we'll copy that, paste that there. And then when it's dark, we're going to, when it's on a light mode, we want it dark type. So we'll just make it black. All right, so now we have to bind main type to the elements where it makes sense. So like we can bind that right there. I think there was supposed to be a dash here, but no big deal. So that right there works pretty well. So what we'll do is go ahead under fill, libraries, main type. Okay, so now if we switch to light, there we go, very good. Now this element right here, we can actually, notice it's actually was attached to a different previous color mode from before I recorded. If I break that, what we want to do is we could probably take this down to 10% for pass-through. All right. And that looks pretty good right there. We'll see how this behaves when we switch to dark. Okay, so you can barely even see it. And we can probably go ahead and attach this. Let's see what happens when we attach this to main type. All right, so when we do that and we switch to light, that looks good. And dark, that looks pretty good as well. So I have no problem with that. Awesome. Let's get this just moved right there. And then finally, we have this section over here. So we have a panel color. So let's create a new variable called panel color. All right, the panel color by default in dark mode, we can take this and grab it right there. There we go. Is that color. Now let's switch to light. And we could leave it like this and not change it at all, but I'm choosing to change it. So we'll take this and maybe we'll just make it white. I think that would work just well. So we'll leave it at white up here. Now we bind this here to the panel color. Alrighty. So now we want to take our type, which it's these 3 elements right here. And we need to do one more variable called secondary type. And it's basically the opposite of main type. So what we'll do is we'll create a color variable called secondary type right there. So in dark mode, this type is white essentially. And then we'll make it black. Actually, we probably could give it the main type variable that was already defined. All right, so what we want to do is take this. We haven't tied those yet. We're going to come over here. There's a fill. We're going to do secondary type. And then when there's also a stroke, we can do secondary type as well. It's a little dash, but it'll follow the same colors. So now if we switch to dark, there we go. Switch to light, there we go. And that is how you do color schemes here within Figma in the new features. So that is everything. We have this element right here, which is just our very first example. We have a more robust example, right? Zoom up, where we can increment values. It changes the price, all that good stuff. It stops at 0. Very nice. We have this toggle option here, light to dark mode. We have this frame right here, where we can control through Boolean values the visibility of other layers. And then finally, as we just saw, we saw the ability to change dark, light, and any other color scheme modes that you wish. All right, everybody, awesome stuff. Hopefully you enjoyed that. I know it's a longer video, but there's a lot to tackle there, and I tackled most of it in terms of the new features of Figma. So hopefully you learned a lot there. I will see you all very soon, and goodbye.